Welcome back to Morning Brief, brought to you by Invesco. Apple hitting another all-time high, bringing its market cap above $3.6 trillion, well ahead of the next closest company, which is Microsoft, which sits at just over $3.3 trillion. Now, the tech giant also seeing its India sales jump 33% in the 12 months through March. That's according to the latest results that we have out from Bloomberg, as Apple looks to diversify beyond China. So what does this all signal ahead for the company's next iPhone release cycle? We want to bring in Gil Luria. He's D.A. Davidson's managing director. Gil, it's great to have you. So it seems like we have this unrelenting move to the upside here in Apple shares, and the narrative surrounding Apple certainly shifting here. Lots of excitement surrounding that new AI-enabled iPhone that we're expecting to be coming. I guess, do you think that a lot of this excitement, is it warranted?
It is. We haven't had a major iPhone upgrade cycle since iPhone 12. And now that there is a sense that there's enough new functionality and uses for the phone that we will have an upgrade cycle, which could last for a year or two, that warrants this excitement around the stock. Let's not forget, iPhone is half of Apple's revenue, and it really pulls with it a lot of other revenue, including services revenue, which has been the ongoing best grower within the business lines.
And so for Apple, what does this signal about some of their other product lines? What could continue to, or what could do well as the company looks to further penetrate the India market?
So India has a long-term promise for Apple. It's the country that's creating the most middle class and upper middle class population anywhere around the world by far. It is, in that sense, the kind of driver that China was for the last 20 or 30 years. And so that's why it's a critically important market. Now, to Apple's benefit, it doesn't have domestic competitors there. Unlike China, where now Apple is going head to head with the domestic competitors that are making better and better phones, in India, that's not the case. They really have as dominant a position in the high end of the market as they do in other countries outside of China. And that means that India will continue to be a long-term growth driver across businesses for Apple.
Gil, what do you think this upside really looks like here for the stock?
So in terms of the growth rates, the consensus expectations, at least going into the Worldwide Developer Conference, was that iPhone would grow 5%. Which was actually not bad considering it hasn't grown in a couple of years. We actually think that iPhone sales this upcoming year could grow 10% because the functionality is going to be compelling. As folks use some of this new functionality during the holidays on their iPhone 15 Pro, and some new users use it on the iPhone 16 versions, it's going to be compelling to other people and other around them. And other people have iPhone 12s, 13s, phones that are due for an upgrade. And once they see that this functionality is only available in newer phones, it will compel them to go out and buy a new iPhone.
You also cover a host of other tech companies, one of them being Microsoft. Are there other strides that you're seeing other consumer tech companies make within the same region where Apple is starting to see its efforts really ramp up?
So on Microsoft's side, the impact is so broad right now in the implementation of more AI and generative AI, including in the PC category. So the AI PCs will be another place where we start using AI capabilities more, generative AI capabilities more. AI PCs have been for sale. They'll probably be part of a cycle as well. It may not be as pronounced as the iPhone cycle, but considering PC sales have been in a hangover the last couple of years, they've started showing signs of growth. And that's a category adjacent to the Apple, right? The Mac is going to have AI capabilities as well, and that could drive more sales there. So let's not forget that that's another category that Apple could benefit from, but Microsoft will as well. But for Microsoft, the benefits of AI are really across the business, starting with Azure, into the Office products, et cetera.
Gil, most of the Mag 7 companies are within your coverage. When investors hear about a broadening out or people perhaps reducing or trimming some of their positions, taking profits where necessary in some of these names, and then either sitting on cash waiting to deploy or reallocating to other sectors, what does that hold for these companies that had been part of the famed Mag 7, and should they be weary when they hear about that broadening?
We'll see. The biggest cap technology companies have outperformed because their fundamentals have outperformed. They've grown earnings when others have not. That's why that's most of the reason their stocks have done better. It's also the fact that they present less risk because their businesses are so entrenched and diversified. That would have to change. We would have to see the 492, 494, whatever other companies you want to consider actually have earnings growth. They haven't had earnings growth for a while. If they actually have accelerating earnings growth outside of these mega caps, we may see a convergence of stock performance. That just hasn't been the case so far. It is these biggest companies that have had the highest growth rates in revenue and profitability. They've contributed most of the growth to the S&P 500 earnings. And until that changes, we may not see a convergence.
And Gil, real quick before we let you go, if you had to pick one of the big tech names that's best positioned here ahead of this earnings season, who do you have?
Amazon. Microsoft and Apple are now getting a lot of credit for what we just talked about. They're seen as AI winners, and their stocks are reflecting that by trading at the high end of historical multiple ranges. We actually think Amazon at the end of the day may have more AI business than any of these other companies. AWS is the biggest hyperscaler, and it's done a lot to catch up to Azure in terms of AI capabilities. And yet Amazon is getting very little credit in terms of multiple. It's trading at average multiple compared to its historical rates. And so we think that's where, when they get more credit, that stock will outperform.
All right, Gil Luria, DA Davidson's managing director. Thanks as always for hopping on with us.
Thank you.